Welcome back to Cactus and Kindness. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about coffee. As you know, there are lots of options out there for making coffee, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So I'm just going to talk about a couple different choices, and then we'll focus on this guy because we will be making cold brew today. So this is just your standard coffee maker. I have owned this one for quite a while, and it makes a good cup of coffee if hot coffee is what you're looking for. I just bought the small 4-cup because usually I'm the only one drinking it. There's a ton of ways to make coffee. This is one way. You could also have an espresso machine or a pour over. There's a ton of different ways. In fact, I'll link some of the ones that I like down below, and if you're interested in them, pick them up. When you go through a drive-thru often and get your cold brew, it may seem like it's overwhelming to make, but honestly, it's super easy and it's totally something you can do at home. There are two different methods that I like to use and one that I prefer. We'll get to my favorite method in just a minute, but first I want to talk about the other way to make cold brew. I don't like it as much because it can be pretty messy, but it works just as well. You use a regular old canning jar. You place your ground coffee in 2 layers of cheesecloth, tie them up. It's the same measurements that we'll go over in just a few minutes. When you pull it out of the jar, it tends to be pretty messy, and so I've gotten accustomed to making my cold brew in a French press. All right, guys, this is a French press. It can be used for making hot coffee. It's actually regarded as the best way to make hot coffee, but I like to use it for cold brew. So when you are picking coffee to make your cold brew, I typically go for a light to medium roast. Typically, I choose a Latin American blend. When you look for coffee, it generally says on the back what region it comes from. I prefer Latin American because they have a brighter taste, a little bit more acidity, but when you make it as cold brew, that acidity is totally cut, and you're left with a really clean, crisp tasting cold brew. If you are interested in making cold brew with this method, the French press, I'll link this one and a couple others that I like down below. So on this plate, I have 2 different types of coffee, and they are also ground differently. On this side, I have a dark roast, and that one is ground actually for the coffee maker that I showed you earlier. So it's a bit finer. And then on this side, I have the coffee that we're actually going to use today. It's a light roast, and you can see that it's roasted lighter, and it's also ground for a French press. So when you make cold brew, your coffee has to be the coarsest grind possible. It's typically called a French press grind, and your coffee shop can do it for you, or if you want to grind fresh, which most coffee connoisseurs would recommend, you can get a grinder. We used to have one, and it just got a little bit too messy and time consuming, so I do get my coffee pre-ground, but I'll link one below also so you can take a look at it, see if it's something you want to keep in your coffee collection. So once you decide what type of coffee you want to use for your cold brew and have it ground properly, then it's just super simple math. Take off the lid of your French press, pour in your coffee. The ratio is 1/4 cup of coffee to 1 cup of water. So I'm going to make 4 cups of coffee. So I have 1 cup of coffee and 4 cups of water. So coffee goes in the bottom, and you're gonna wanna use filtered water unless the water that comes out of your sink tastes great. Ours tastes like dirt. So I use filtered water that we get down the street. I don't know why I'm telling you where we get our water, that's weird. Pour your water in slowly. It doesn't have to be super slow, but just so the grounds don't go crazy. And you can use cold filtered water. This is room temperature and it'll be fine. You just don't want it warm in any way because your goal is to not to cook the grounds. You'll see the grounds float up to the top. That's totally normal. All right. And then you place the lid on gently. This will go in the fridge now for between 16 and 24 hours. It's really preferential. Everybody's a little bit different. I usually go about 20 hours for mine, but feel free to experiment. You might land on a time frame that works better for you. All right, our coffee has been in the fridge for about 20 hours now. And all you have to do at this point is depress the plunger. You're gonna wanna do that pretty slowly. That way all the grounds get stuck down at the bottom and you're left with just good, delicious cold brew. And that's it, guys. Cold brew is easy. Let me know down below in the comment section if there's another brewing method that you want me to go over. I have about 10 years of experience as a barista, and coffee is something that I'm pretty passionate about. So if there's any other topics having to do with coffee that you want to learn about, please comment below. And you know, the usual, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. See you guys later. Then it's just a super simple.
I can't say the word super. Now's a good time to let it know. There's no coffee in there.
No, not today. Sometimes there is.
You really went after that mug. It was like.
Does this look gross? I'll get to my favorite method in just a minute, but I first want to talk about making it in a jar. I didn't realize I was going to do that. I'm slow. Take your French press, remove the lid. I just have to build a French press real quick.